One, two, yeah, 1, 2. Sippers, welcome to this Friday episode of the Tea With Me podcast with me, your big mate Shane Todd. It's Friday, the weekend started. My webcam breaks during this interview. By the way, I've already done the interview. I'm not predicting that will happen because I'll be spooky and weird like David Blaine. But my webcam breaks during this. I don't know why, but at the minute it looks like I'm recording this in the Middle East. It looks like I'm doing this in a bazaar from Marrakesh, and I don't even know what a bazaar is, but that would be bizarre. Anyway, Sippers, this episode is one that I just recorded with Christina Bennington. Christina is an actress originally from Belfast, but has been performing and touring all over the world with productions like Bat Out of Hell, the Meatloaf musical that she played for over 2 years in Broadway. And I don't mean Broadway just off the West Link in Belfast, even though that would be great. That would still be a great achievement to do that for 2 years. But no, I'm talking about Broadway in New York, baby. I'm talking about the West End. I have plenty of questions for a stage actress who's performed in big productions like that. And also we just kind of chatted a bit about Belfast as well. She's never really spent much time in Belfast since she moved away. So I'm asking Christina how Belfast has changed. We talk about Belfast superheroes, loads more things. This was a real fun interview to do. I think you'll enjoy it. Sippers, enjoy this episode. Before we kick off, let me plug the Patreon. Thought someone was going to park my car parking space outside, and I did not like it. Patreon.com/teawithmepodcast. You get the bonus episode on a Monday. You get my stand-up special from last year, and we do the live podcast on there as well every month or so. Sippers, let's get on with the episode. This is the Tea With Me episode with my friend Christina Bennington. Christina, my first question with all guests is, do you drink tea? What is the kind of level of your tea drinking if you do? And if you don't drink tea, why not?
Well, I actually don't drink tea. And I'm currently right now on Tea With Me, got a black coffee.
Disrespectful.
I know, a black coffee with you. I actually think tea tastes like dirty dishwater. I'm sorry. I think it's disgusting.
Well, I mean, what a way to kick off the podcast. I mean, if you had said Earl Grey, that is an accurate description of Earl Grey, which is the devil's work, but regular tea. So you just, I mean,
yeah, I think it's like the worst drink, and it's obviously
the worst.
I would say a Northern Irish thing, but like it's just an everywhere thing apparently. That like in my house, you finish a tea and everyone just makes another tea straight away, yeah. And I'm very left out.
Was this based on like a childhood tea experience and you just like ruled tea out, or have you given it a chance in recent years?
I assume so. I never really liked milk either or tea. I'm like conveniently vegan now, so don't have to have milk, but I never liked it. I think because my mum was so obsessed with tea, I think I tried to like it, but nope.
I'm the same with Cliff Richard. Like my mom absolutely obsessed, and that just put me off Cliff for life. Even though Cliff seems like he would be a great guy, and Cliff would definitely drink a lot of tea. On the vegan thing, not related to anything. I kind of like I'm not vegan, right? But glaringly because I eat meat, but I do like I don't really eat dairy or drink dairy.
Yeah.
So I kind of do call myself vegan. Like if we're in a restaurant, I'd be like, "Oh, can I see the vegan menu?" And then I order off that and say, "Here, can you fire chicken breast on that?" So does that are you like? I don't mean like well into being vegan, but you know what I mean. Are you like really vegan to the point?
Really vegan myself, but there's nothing worse I think than like a preachy vegan. I think there's genuinely nothing worse than someone who judges what someone else eats. Like in fact my boyfriend does the exact same thing because he is dairy intolerant, so he'll always be like, "Can I have a vegan pizza with
yeah.
I'm like, sure,
yeah.
Bother me.
Can I get a vegan pizza? And can we make that a meat feast, please? Just no cheese. Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, it's not a club anyone wants to be in, but him and I are in that club of lactose intolerance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean about. I mean, a preachy version of anything isn't good. If you're preachy about anything, I mean, to be fair, when you said the tea was dishwasher water, I kind of judged you on that. So I'm a hypocrite. But look, we'll move on. So you. I will have done a lovely introduction before this, by the way, but you are an actress. What do you say?
Interested to hear what you say.
So we yeah, you've acted on Broadway, you've acted in the West End, but I want to talk about that because I love the idea. I always say to my friend Aaron that I think I would make a really great Frankie Valli in Jersey Boys,
Yes.
but then he doesn't think. Maybe I'll give you like a little rendition of.
Just like
I
a
just
very specific part to decide you'd be good at. Like, are you have you got a super high voice or something?
Yeah, and no, do you know what it is? I like Frankie Valli as a guy, and I don't think I would accept any other role.
Sure.
I know that is a big production, but I just think for me, I mean, that is kind of me with life in a way. It's Frankie Valli or nothing. I don't want to play one of his mates. I don't even know what those guys are called. I just want to play, I just want to play Frankie Valli. But take me back to, you grew up in Belfast. So see acting, right? I always liked acting and I always liked the idea of it. And now it's something I enjoy. I don't do it that often, but it's something I really enjoy doing. And I'm so annoyed at myself that whenever I was school age and slightly older, I never would have put myself forward to do any kind of no school plays. I mean, I was in the choir. I was kind of killing it low key in the back of the choir. With the well, I mean, I was going falsetto because I wanted to be Frankie Valli, but but I always wanted to act. I think deep down, I always really wanted to act, but I was too nervous to do it or worried what people would say. So how did you get into acting in the first place?
When I was a kid, I was in pantomimes. My family did pantomimes in Lambeg with the Lambeg players, and like it was like my family, my cousin's family, who, by the way, I just have to put out there, my cousins and my siblings. It was always the joke in our family that if I ever get asked to do your podcast, I've made it. So I've officially made it. Um,
Well done, congratulations.
Thank you. We did like pantomimes when we were kids, and obviously really super highbrow. My dad actually now writes them that they do in Lambeg, and my family are still super involved. I did school plays. I went to Methody and did a lot of drama and like super choral, you know, life there. A
Like
lot of choir.
like I so my mom took me to a thing called speech play whenever I was about 7 or 8. We were actually talking about this like 2 nights ago, which was I don't know what I don't think there was anything wrong. I think it was like it was like an acting thing, and it
Mm,
was in like a local church, and they would do like improv and they would do all this kind of stuff, and everyone that did it was well into it, like they loved it,
that's
and yeah, at 7 or 8, but there was like
like really serious about improv. I still am not great at improv.
there was quite a few guys going in turtlenecks, like it was being taken yeah really seriously, but I stopped going because this is 100% true. There was a guy in the class who was, if I was like 7 or 8, he was maybe 9 or 10. He was obviously a veteran of the acting course. And they said the week before, they were like, we're going to pretend that the carpet is the sea and there's sharks in it. And we're all going to stand on chairs and be stranded at sea. This guy, I think he was called Jonathan, in between the week before and the week of doing the sharks and stuff, he went home and made a paper mache steak, like as in an eaten steak, and then just whipped it out of his pocket and like during the class and was like, "Here, this we can keep the steak preoccupied with this," and just tossed it to the floor. And I was like, "This is not for me. This place."
Well, that's not really improv, is it? That's
It's it. I mean, it's a total opposite of improv. When a guy, I mean, yeah, you don't improv paper mache. You make it. Oh god, my camera's gone off. Oh Jesus Christ. Oh no, I'm just gonna disconnect this. Hang on. Christ. All right, that's us. So you did acting in school, and then were you taking the lead in school plays, or were you kind of just keeping it in the background, or were you?
I was the worst. I took all the leads, and
Yeah.
one of those people. Like I was so keen, and I like really wanted to like be a teacher as well. And I like for some reason they let me. Well, I see in hindsight, my teachers were super nice, but I can see why they let me because they did have to do very little then. And I sort of like choreographed the school plays and sort of
When
sometimes
so when you were in
yes,
the plays, you were
sometimes
choreographing the plays.
I choreographed the senior school plays when I was in younger than everyone else. It was a very strange setup. Don't really know why they let me do it, but
Yeah, no.
it was normal at the time.
And then, so what was, so you were acting in school, and then did you know whenever you were doing that that's what you wanted to do after school, or was there something else you were wanting to do?
Yeah, I really I just thought that seems fun. It's sort of annoying. You want to be like, oh no, I just like fell into it, or like, oh, I was really good at this thing. But I was like, no, 100%. That's definitely what I want to do. I want to be in the West End, so I'm gonna do it.
I was the same with football. In school, I would have taken it very seriously, and I was like, honestly, up until I was way too old for it to happen. Like whenever I was like 22, I was like, at some point, I probably will play professional football. But I'm not good at football. You obviously had a passion for acting, and we're good at acting. But I mean, I was still kind of. I remember saying to my stepdad over at dinner, I was like, I think I will play Champions League football at some point. And he's like, you won't. You honestly won't. And that's the wake up call I needed. But to kind of go into acting, what's that like in Northern Ireland in general? Like, is there a good like acting scene here? Like, whenever you do not just amateur dramatics, but like, were you involved in the lyric and things like that, or did you just sort of?
Wasn't I didn't do like the Amdram stuff or anything. I did like family pantomime, but I didn't do really so much of like all the Amdram societies. I think if you want to work now, like I'm home at the moment because I'm filming. So I'm doing a TV job which happens to be in Belfast, which is so glorious.
What is it? Can I ask what it is? Or you're not allowed to say?
I
If you're
don't
not allowed to say, just say also.
think
Just say
I'm
what it
supposed
is.
to say, but
Give us a clue.
it's like, oh, I don't know. I know that my director follows you on Instagram because I
Okay.
saw.
Let
So
me ask. Let me ask you this: is it something that's been on before, or is this the
oh,
first
it's
time it's been?
new. It's new and it's cute, and I think I can say that it's children's TV, so it's really fun. It's like super fun and really great. And
I mean, if your director follows me on Instagram, definitely just tell him I'll be in it, whatever it is. You know, if he likes it, just say like, hey, the big man needs work. He needs to get out of the house.
right, it's like there's so much being filmed now. I think there's like 5 or 6 like massive TV shows still being filmed during a pandemic in Belfast. That's like how big the industry is. But there's not so much theatre here, and there definitely wasn't either of those things whenever I was leaving school. So I was like, I'm going to the big city, I'm going to London. No,
So I auditioned for, remember Skins? Do you remember a TV show called Skins?
I do very well.
I auditioned. I saw this thing online for. This was the first time I was like, I'm gonna act. It was an open audition for Skins in London, and me and my friend Gareth got the bus from Belfast, which goes on the ferry. Obviously, takes like 24 hours. We got to London, no sleep. We have to do an improvised scene, so more improv. I should have brought a paper mache steak.
Right.
Hindsight, but
There's improv.
but the scene was, so it was me and like these like London actors, like they were really taking it seriously, and we were all like, I don't know, 17, 18, maybe younger, and the scene was one of the girls is addicted to heroin, but I was like, this is such a jump from there was no acting before this to all of a sudden
High
this girl.
stakes.
Yeah, no, I misjudged it as comedy. I read the room wrong, and I was like, why not make a joke out of this? I could be a comedy character in this, and I have never felt more ostracized. Like it was like I knew from the first word out of my mouth I wasn't going to get the role in Skins, and I'd spent 24 hours on a bus to London, and I had to get a bus 24 hours back. So that was a horrendous experience. What was the first time? Was the first time you went over for an audition, or were you going over like for a job?
When I was like 12 or 13, I auditioned for a thing which was like The Little Prince. It was a BBC Kids opera, and I got it. I auditioned here, and then I had to do a recall audition in London. So I spent like a month in London as a 12, 13-year-old, and it was amazing. I was like, this is what it's like to be a professional actor. They take you out to the cinema every night, and like, like, because it's like kids, and they had like plan all these fun activities. This is amazing.
Class.
I want to do this forever. So I did that, but then I auditioned for drama school, and then I eventually ended up in Guildford, which is in Surrey, and I trained there, and then moved into London.
What is the real? I mean, I think we all have a preconceived idea of what acting school would be and that kind of thing. And not that there is a negative thing towards it, but there is kind of like, people will say, oh, say like people that go to Brit school, and then get into music and stuff like that. I think from talking to friends in the music industry about this once, they were like, oh, that person's been to Brit school, as if it's some sort of unfair advantage, when it's just like, I think if you play football, it's like going to a good training academy. Like you're
Yeah.
literally just learning the skills. So what was the reality versus kind of expectation of going to an acting school?
It's just you know what, it's just really hard, and it sort of doesn't prepare, well, it does prepare you skills wise for the acting world. You're like, great, I know how to do this and this, but like the atmosphere does not prepare you. It, like, they tell you to do some really stupid stuff, because a lot of, I mean, no offense to my drama school or any other, but a lot of the teachers have not acted in a very long time, obviously. So they're, you know, they're like, when you go to an audition, you should wear your little character shoes and wear a little dress, and you go out into the world, and you're like, oh God, everyone's just like in jeans and being themselves, and I've got this weird presentational like character on. But it's just really very long hours. It's good and bad. It's like formative years, you know, everyone's like learning who they want to be in college. And when you combine that with like a course, which is like, you are all in direct competition with one another.
Right, right. Would
So kind of
music would musical numbers have kicked off at like a moment's notice, like in the lunch hall or anything like that?
you know what? Yes, but I was never that person. Like I was
I
never
asked that as a joke. Is that true?
so yes. So like if everyone's rehearsing something, because you're in college from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 5 or 6 days a week. Like it's the most contact hours of anything ever. Maybe it's not the same anymore. Maybe I'm just old, but like, you know, it's a lot. So everyone's quite delirious anyway, and you know, if you're practicing a big number, you'd sort of get on the lunch break, someone, because it's so competitive, someone will be like, oh, and just like start singing, and then everyone starts like harmonizing or dancing. And I was really like, you sort of call that stagey behavior, and I was very not stagey, and I hated it, and I was like, oh my God, like horrible. But yeah, 100% tap numbers,
I
ballet.
mean,
Yeah.
I mean, thank God that's where you went and did that. Like, if you at any Belfast school, if you tried to start a music number during lunch, you're going to get brutally attacked for that. Like that's not going to work.
To be honest, I'm like, I went to Methody. I honestly, I think people would have been like all in for it there.
You think it might have floated?
Yeah, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
No,
yeah.
I don't know either. The first audition I ever did, I was kind of like, wouldn't say like a child prodigy with acting, but my mum asked me if I wanted to audition for a Harry Corey ad. You know Harry Corey do like curtains and.
What were you up for?
Well, I was auditioning to play an employee. No, I wasn't. I was auditioning whenever I was about
like curtains, or I don't know.
yeah. No,
I feel like they never have people in the adverts.
they did back in the day because it was a very famous worldwide. I want to say maybe not, but it was a series of ads where the catchphrase was "We need help, we need Harry." You don't remember this?
No.
What age are you?
28.
This was maybe even like a couple of years. Maybe you missed out on these phenomenal ads,
I'll look it up.
which was "We need help, we need Harry." So it would be a family sitting in, looking around a house that was pretty bare, and they would say, "We need help, we need Harry," and then they would get swagged out at Harry Corey. So I was about 5, about 5 years old, and my mum said, "Do you want to do an acting audition?" And I was like, "Mama," I was like, "Let us go," right? Because that was before I got nervous about acting, or at that age I was ready for it. And I went along to this open audition of other children, and there was a director there, and he's like, "So if you want," no, it wasn't a director. There was like somebody else going, "Can you just practice the line? We need help. We need Harry." And I sort of did like a Marlon Brando in The Godfather type like that good of a performance. I was like, "We need help." See, all the other kids basically were too quick. They're like, "We need help. We need Harry."
Yeah.
I took a little gap in between. I was
Uh,
like, "We need help," and then I think I surveyed the room, which we weren't even in a room, but I was like, "We need Harry," and it brought other children to applause, and it honestly got down to, I must have said the line like relatively well. It genuinely got down to me and this other kid. And then they said, like, "Okay, it's yours, you've got it." And they sent, it must have been about 100 kids home throughout the day. It's 100% true. Then they said, "You've got the role," and it was going to be 250 quid, which in 1992 or whatever it
yeah,
was
unbelievable.
thousands. My mum had to bring me into the director, who was like, "Shane, we're really happy you're going to do this. You're doing really well. So we just need to make sure before we like book you to do this, I need to ask you, because it would be irresponsible if we didn't. Do you definitely want to do this? Do you definitely want to be in this TV ad?" And I didn't even really know what I was there for. So I was just like, "Well, nah, I don't want to do it." I changed my mind. I was like, "I don't fancy it." And my mom's like, "I did just drive you home." And it was the biggest waste of a day of all time. And I think after that, that's when I turned my back on acting until about 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah, that and the Skins audition were my first forays into acting. So when you're at acting school, are you auditioning for things at the same time? Are you allowed to do that, or are you just...
Not till you get into third year. When you do your showcase and you get into third year, you start auditioning for stuff in the real world.
What was the worst thing? Like, are you allowed to watch other people's showcases?
We all do it as one. Yeah, you do like a big show and agents come and they all just like pick you.
Have you seen anything that went horrendously badly? Like, obviously doing stand-up, I do bad sets from time to time for sure, and I've seen so many. But like, have you ever seen anything go, even if it's happened to you, like, has anything gone really wrong when you're doing some sort of stage performance?
I've had quite a few like bad physical mishaps, like accidents and stuff. I remember my first ever job. This is actually like kind of horrible, but my first ever job, I was at Birmingham Rep doing Christmas Carol, which was apparently a cursed production. And because they'd done it 3 or 4 years, the same version before, and someone had broken their arm in like the final tech rehearsal. And it was our final tech rehearsal. And the guy playing Scrooge was stood on this other guy's shoulders who was wearing a dress, vital plot point,
Sure.
with like big shoulders. He was standing on his shoulders, holding hands with two people either side. This is great visual description for a podcast. Sorry.
No, it's
And
fine.
he jumped off the guy's shoulders and like slammed down on the stage because he tripped over his shoulder pad, and his neck landed one way and his body landed the other way. He's fine. I can say he's fine.
Oh, I thought he died.
At the time, we all thought he died, and I was on stage holding hands with like these 4 children that I was meant to be looking after, who were right next to him, and the other team of kids in the show were in the second row, and literally they just slammed right in front. It was like literally like a TV show. All these little kids just went, "Yay!"
Oh, shit.
Horrible. He'd broken his jaw, but not his back. Great.
I mean, at the same time, I think any kid who screamed like that should have been sacked from the production, because when you're acting and you don't break character, even if a man severely breaks his neck in front of you, you got to keep that character. So yeah, hopefully they were all sacked.
They were all very cute, like really Brummy kids. They were like, if they weren't going to be sacked for the fact that they only could do a Brummy accent, they were going to be sacked for nothing.
Well, so. You know, I don't know how long ago that was, but now they've probably got roles in Peaky Blinders, so it's probably worked out.
Probably.
I remember a friend of mine auditioned for Peaky Blinders, who's an actor, and this was like a week before he was going to go, and he's like, "I think I've got the accent." I went, "Let's hear it." And I didn't know how to say. I didn't know how to keep a straight face, and I definitely didn't know how to not say, "That's not from Birmingham. That's not from the planet. That accent, like, that's not a thing." Yeah, I mean, with stand-up, I've never seen it. My friend Aaron fell off stage pretty bad. It's one of those ones where, like, I think if it happens at the end of a production, it's fine. But if it happens at the start, you never get them back, especially with stand-up. Like, sure. My friend Aaron fell off midway through the show, and then that's all people are going to think about for the rest of the show. What was the point where you started doing like West End productions, or what was your first kind of big role where you were like, hang on a second, this is pretty great? Not that the Lambeg Players wasn't.
I know that was really the peak of my career, but I think I did like a couple of random shows, and then I worked my way up, very classic sort of, and then I covered a lead role in the West End, and I was in Showboat, and I covered the lead, and she was sort of an idol of mine. She was like 10 years older, and I was always, you know, that classic thing of like the understudies, like always ready to go on. I was like, I'm so ready.
Right.
I never went on for like 4 months, I think, of doing the show, and I was like, oh, nightmare, I'm never going to get on. And I remember I did a workshop, so I was off, like I was doing another job, and I had a week off the show, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to get on. And I'd been ready for 4 months or 5 months or something. And I remember going out to celebrate this workshop and just being like, I'm just going to let my hair down for once, because I'm never going to go on. And getting a call, walking to the theatre the next day, like, you're leading a West End show for the first time ever. And it was like the worst thing ever. I was like, this is horrible. I've been ready for so long, and it's today. It was fine in the end, but it was like a really big singing role, and she was off for 2 weeks in the end, so I played it for 2 weeks, and that was kind of the time where I was like, ooh, I think I could actually play leads.
Do you, when you're an understudy, especially if you've been waiting for 4 months, like, you know, full disclosure, like, do you ever kind of hope, like, you know, when you say break a leg to someone, like, were there nights where you meant it?
No, not really, because well, that part was different. After that, I'd never understudied again because I started getting parts, which was great.
Right.
But she was off for a really nice reason. It turned out she was pregnant. She had morning sickness. So in
Ah,
the
okay.
end, I could feel totally like great about celebrating the fact that she was off. Because I was like, I'm so happy for you and me.
Yeah, yeah, but mainly me, but yeah, but good luck. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's people who like, does anyone understudy for longer than 4 months? Like, are there people that just never get to? That must be so difficult because you probably have to every night get yourself in the frame of mind that, okay, I could be ready to do this. I'm, you know, working on my lines and delivery and all that. And 4 months must be like, sometimes I can't go to a comedy club where I'm not performing because that feeling of like, oh, I really want to get up there, especially if you see people. I was going to say, especially if you see people doing well, but when you see them doing badly too, you're like, oh, I could do a job up there. Like, so that must be difficult. And then when you go from the understudy to playing the lead or playing the role that you were understudying for, are you, so I don't really know. I've been to see I went to see Wicked on the West End, which was really good. I did the classic thing of like, I was like, no, West End wouldn't be for me. I was like, no, I wouldn't, that wouldn't really be my scene. And then I went to see one thing and I was like, I'm just a theater guy now. I
Do you
just go
want
to
to
the
teacher?
theater. I got myself little gold binoculars on a thing, and I was like, this is what I do. But um, are you, like, the thing I never really could get my head around is that people are attached to productions for so long. I mean, doing a stand-up show, I only maybe do the same show for hour-long show for maybe 3-4 months on a tour. So do you, whenever you perform the same show, maybe sometimes twice a day, do you ever, how do you not, my question as a performer is, how do you not kind of, not get bored of it, but how do you keep it interesting for yourself?
Yeah, I did a rock musical, the Meatloaf musical, Battered of Hell, for like about 2.5 years. I did it sort of all over the world. And the only reason that didn't get boring is because they kept changing it all the time. They'd be like, surprise, we're cutting a song. Like,
Oh, okay. Oh, so I never knew that. I never knew that
oh,
was a thing.
nightmare. It's not really. That was just a
Right.
really good show. And I mean, that was kind of fun because they let me do what I wanted to an extent because it's a rock musical. But if you're in something like Wicked, you have to do the exact same thing every night. So, I mean, I wouldn't do it again in a rush, do a show for a year or more. That's why I'm doing more screen stuff at the moment because it's more fun. You say all the lines maybe like 20 times in a row when you do takes, obviously, and then you never say them again. Great.
I still find that like, performing wise, I find that difficult to, obviously with stand up, you say it once and then even if you deliver it wrong, you move on to the next thing. So to keep going and give it the same energy is definitely something I'm still like really learning and really new to. When you're in that kind of like West End scene and you're living in London and mixing with a lot of other actors, is there many people from home over there? Is there like a, like,
Yeah,
do you hear another accent?
each
And you're like,
other.
oh,
We all know each other. And yeah, there's quite a few people that I did shows with as a teenager who live in London now. There's quite a lot of us. Um, and yeah, so we do sort of, well, it's that thing where, you know, when you meet someone and they go, you're from Belfast, you
yeah,
must know this person. And you go, don't be so stupid. And then you always know them and you're like, but yeah, I do.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. People are like, I'm not going to understand. Oh, no, that's a close friend of mine. It's 1 degree of separation. It really is. And living in London, and then tell me how, because yeah, the Bat Out of Hell musical, I saw Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons on Broadway earlier in the year. I like seeing something on Broadway is something I've wanted to do for years now. Like, just to say I've been there and see what it's like. And I love Jersey Boys, so that's why I went to see that. But how did you land that role? Was it a touring thing or was it just Broadway?
Yeah, I did it here first. I did it Manchester, London, then we went to Toronto, and then we came back to the West End at the Dominion. And then when they were bringing it to Broadway, they just brought me and another girl from here, from London, from
And
the original cast to join an American cast.
the big question is, did Meat himself ever go to see the play?
Yeah,
And
I've met him quite a lot of times actually. I did a lot of press with him, and then he came see the show twice, once in New York and once in London. And he like, I nearly kicked him in the head. It was so awful.
Just out of anger, or?
Yeah, I was just livid. He was stealing my spotlight. No, we finished the show, and my like final thing in the bows was always like I did a big high kick and thought it was really cool. And I did this kick, and he had come on to surprise us at the end and not told anyone. He literally walked past my. I so nearly kicked him in the head. I mean, we knew he was in the audience. He had this idea that he was like, "Don't tell them I'm in. No one will notice." There was a pre-show where we all sat on stage, or like 3 or 4 of us at the beginning of the show in New York, and the whole audience had stood up and were lining up around the auditorium to try and get a selfie with him. And he was like, "Don't tell them I'm in." And we were like, "We're watching you give autographs, but okay."
And also he's Meatloaf, so you're gonna be like that. Well, there's Meatloaf.
Yeah.
Do you do so the Meatloaf song that I love the most is "Paradise by the Dashboard Light"?
It's a tune.
That's a big tune. Was that in it?
Yes, it was performed by my parents in the show. It was like this.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like the Benningtons are back again doing the Lambeg Players. I was like, that's great that you'd be like, hey, my mum and dad have shown up.
No. My fake show parents. Yeah, it was like this scene where my character was turning 18 and it was her birthday party, and it was like a throwback of sort of when she was essentially conceived. It was like a strange scene where they were at the dinner party, and then he like took the cloth off the table, and then it was a car, and then they like sang the whole song in the car. And
did your the dynamics of like stage performers, did your parents in that musical ever treat you like they were your parents off stage?
Yeah, that's not usual, but they did and still do. Like I still
like grounded, and
I'm like, Mom, Dad, like, because it was so long. I think it was just a really long time.
I'd be tapping them for money for sure. I'd be like, hey, Mum, Dad, can I have 50 quid?
You joke, but like they did give me presents as if I was a daughter in a nice way. You know, if they were popping out to get a coffee, they'd always get me one too, whatever I meant.
What's Broadway? I mean, to spend so long in New York, I love New York. I think it's one of my favorite cities, and it's such a like performer city as well. So how did you find living over there?
It's mad. It's really cool because in London, no one really cares about the West End unless you love theatre. Like no one who you are ever. Like I was on tube posters, like all over the tube for a full year. Not one person who's not a theatre person would have noticed.
Right.
Like billboard sized tube posters all over my face. No one would know. And we were there for 3 months. We did the show in New York, and there was like, you know, billboards in Times Square, and they would like play the trailer in Times Square, and you get stopped like 10 times a day on the street.
Class.
Everyone cares about theatre, and everyone cares about live performance there, whether or not you are a theatre person. It's like it's so mainstream, which is really strange and nice.
And like whereabouts in New York did you live?
Basically in Times Square, like just off Times Square.
I one night I was in Times Square walking back to my hotel. My best friend Dave had overlapped. He was on a family holiday. I was working in New York. We overlapped for one night. Went for a night out around all the Irish bars around Times Square, because every other bar is an Irish bar. And a guy we knew was working in a bar, and he just kept giving us like glasses of, like, not shots of Sambuca, but glasses of Sambuca. And I'm not really a drinker, but I remember walking through Times Square at about 3:30 in the morning, and it was just like it was middle of the day. All the lights, the same amount of people walking around, and there was football. This is so terrible. There's football freestylers trying to, like, you know, earn some money. And I walked past, and I was so drunk, and this is very out of character for me, but I was like, mate, pass. And the guy's like, buddy, just working here. And I was like, mate, if you want to see a trick, pass. And I slipped over his football and then just walked on, and the ball just careered down Times Square. But yeah, I mean, is there then a thing as well of, you know, there's so many people from Northern Ireland in London, and as you say, like, working in the West End. Is that the same on Broadway? Like, is there anyone else from here over there? And do you guys meet up and talk about things from home, like Tato and, you know, punishment beatings? I don't know, but what, is there a community there?
Well, weirdly, I was there. Was it at the time? And it was like after the Ferryman had been on, so I crossed over with loads of friends who were in the Ferryman, which was weird, but otherwise not really. I mean, and then there was actually, no, I lie. My other friend from home, they were doing Sing Street, so like it's quite fashionable, obviously, to be Irish in America. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm Irish, sort of.
Yeah.
Very loosely.
Yeah. 4%, you know.
Yeah, you're like, great. So, but not the same as London.
I mean, the fair, like obviously anyone who's in the Ferryman and anyone who's on Broadway in general is a phenomenal actor. But I've heard of so many people I know that have been in the Ferryman that I was like, do you just get to go and do it? Like, can I put my name forward to go and do the Ferryman? I mean, I'll play any role. I'll be an understudy. I don't mind what it is, but it seems like a lot of people are doing the Ferryman. And when it comes back, I think I'm going to ask if I can play Frankie Valli in the Ferryman.
Why not? I mean, I thought that, and then I saw it, and there were a lot of people in it. So I was like, okay, it's a lot of characters, fair.
Yeah. I mean, Broadway, New York. I mean, yeah, it just makes me think of like, I think I was supposed to be in New York like a couple of months ago, which was rescheduled again. And now I'm like, I don't know, this time next year, can I go over there to perform? I have no idea when all of that comes back. And is the West End the same, I guess, as Broadway at the minute? Is it just done?
Yeah, some stuff's opening in November in the West End, which is, but like socially, just I don't know. It's so strange, isn't it? Like I actually felt glad that I was not in a West End show when everything shut down. Because if it had been this time last year when I was in New York, it wouldn't have happened.
Well, especially as well if you're in the middle of a really good run or you've put so much work in to prepare something, and then it's like this is going away for a year.
Yeah, sorry, that's clearly what's happened to you. So
oh yeah, no, touchy subject, but no, I got to do like 10, 12 shows in between the two lockdowns, and they were obviously socially distanced. And
I was fuming. I was back in London. I really wanted to go.
It was do you know what it was so fun about it? It was like it was ran so well that nobody was, I don't think, uncomfortable, or nobody was like worried about distance and that kind of thing. I think everybody was like, this is what it used to be like. Do you remember 13 weeks ago? Or like, it wasn't that long ago, but everyone's like, oh, this is great. But yeah, I mean, music and theater seems to be hit so much worse than comedy, because like comedy's just kind of a person talking. You're kind of still able to do that.
Still virtually, but I feel like all the live stream stuff, it's hard with theater because you're like, literally the point of being there is to be there and for it to be live. Otherwise, I'll just watch a film.
Yeah. What did you think of? Did you watch Hamilton? Like, have you seen it on Disney Plus?
I hadn't seen it in person, and then I watched it on Disney Plus for the first time with my sister here because I spent the whole of lockdown in Belfast. It's the longest I've ever been in Belfast. I was 18, ever 4.5 months. I think I'd been maybe not even 2 weeks at a time before that. So actually, I had a great time. Like, I feel bad saying that. Everyone was like, oh God, like, are you all right? Lockdown. I was like, it's amazing.
Do you feel like you reconnected with the city a bit? I mean, it must have changed so much from...
Okay, this is just, I just became a weird super fan of loads of like food and coffee places.
Yeah.
There's nothing else happening except for going to get takeaway stuff. So I sort of became like a weird regular at places like for takeaway. And
what coffee shops are you digging at the minute?
Honestly, if they hear me say this, they'll be like, leave us alone. Guilt Trip. I'm obsessed with Guilt Trip, and I tell them all the time, like, to a weird, like how people would talk to me about theater, I talk to them about coffee when I go there, and they're like, cool, thanks.
I know the person that owns it.
Well, pass on.
I'll get you a donut. Don't worry. He's never given me one, but I'll get him to pass on a donut.
I mean, I honestly went there many, many times in lockdown, but I had this amazing time with my sister. We watched Hamilton together, and I remember she made all this food for it. She's starting she's a baker and a chef and stuff. It's
okay.
It's no nightmare being at home. I've literally got a cake with me right now.
Oh, excellent. What is it?
Is this just like a vegan lemon and raspberry kind of cake? It's very
delicious. Does your sister like specialize in that, or she'll just do that for you? Because
she does vegan cakes and non-vegan cakes, yeah.
I cannot get baked goods anywhere, and all the ones you can get are the same thing. They're just like, look, I will get you a donut at Guilt Trip that I'll be like, listen, give Christine a donut, but then I'll pay them for it, and then they'll send that over. And then if your sister could in exchange give me like 12, 13 cakes, that would be a great deal.
That seems totally reasonable.
And it has to be gluten-free also, but don't worry about that. Gluten-free.
Are you gluten-free as well?
Gluten-free, dairy-free, which means I can eat lettuce and gluten-free hobnobs, which are unreal.
No, yeah, no, I'll sort you out. But so she'd made all this food, and we were like, oh, we're gonna eat like delicious baked goods. So I was like taste testing, the worst job in the world. And we're like, we're gonna do it when we're Hamilton. I could not eat because I honestly was sobbing so much. I like I mean, I'm a fairly emotional person, but just seeing people react to live theater at a
Oh
time
yeah,
when I wasn't distant,
yeah,
hearing everyone like scream. Like, honestly, about 2 minutes in, I started crying, and I couldn't stop sobbing the whole time. And I was like, I didn't even realize I was this affected by theater stopping, because I think I was really like, I was switched off from it because I was like auditioning for TV stuff, and I was like, that's still happening. Great, don't have to worry about theater. I'm not involved in it, and I just found it so hard to deal with. I was
yeah, yeah.
obviously just it's amazing anyway, but just crying at people being talented, not even at it being sad.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I watched some stand up at the start of this. That was in America. They'd started to do like garden gigs and parking lot shows. And listen to me, parking lot. I'm in car park, guys. Come on. But I was watching that, being like, oh God, do you remember the if I could play Frankie Valli, my number one dream role. My
Yeah,
number two dream role is the King in Hamilton.
yeah, it's
I
great.
could I think I could do a job in that role. I sing that song to my son 3 times a day, and he has not got any complaints, even though he cannot talk because he is 13 weeks old or something like that.
Cute.
That was a guess, but that actually is how old he is. I'm very impressed with myself there. 13
Um,
and a half weeks, but he likes it. But I really get into the role. Like I do the face.
like very little stage time, lots of payoff. Like,
Exactly. That's the best thing. That's stand up. Sometimes if you're just trying and you 5 minutes at a comedy club and people are doing 20 minutes and half an hour, you have so much of an advantage because you're just like, by the time like the audience is really into it, you're away and they want to see more, as
yeah,
opposed to when you're doing 40 minutes or an hour where they're looking at you like, what time's this wrap up at? Because I've got to get a bus after this. See, that's a thing you probably don't experience performing in the West End and Broadway. It's people who are so in the theatre that they make a night of it. Gigging live in Northern Ireland, you could be having the best gig of your life, but if it gets to around 10:30, people genuinely are like, mate, I have to get an Ulster bus because the bus service to Ard stops. I've had that happen at shows. I get DMs before shows. Mate, I'm thinking about coming down from Lurgan here. What time will you be wrapping up at?
like, oh, sorry. Yeah, my brother and sister have been to a lot of your.
Ah,
Yeah, we're
tell
a
your
big.
sister to bring cake next time.
I know, right? We're a big fan family. I like
Well,
actually our this is embarrassing, but our lockdown anthem was "Things That Are Sly,"
oh
and
yeah.
it's all it's all that our family did for honestly months. Like we would just sing it all the time around the house. It's the catchiest song on the planet. So
What I like about that is like that the Benningtons with their acting background are going to give a proper performance of that. But I think whenever live shows come back again, when theatre comes back again, I think we take over the Lambeg theatre space for one night, and it's just an MCB live set. That would be a hell of a lot of fun. Um,
honestly, that would be amazing. Please actually do that.
yeah, I mean, I would walk to Wicklow at the minute for a gig, not a problem. Like
Yeah,
I just
no, I totally feel you. Yeah.
need to perform. Moving into screen acting and doing things like TV, what's the enjoyment level of that compared to stage?
I like it more because I like that it's more like you feel more challenged all the time. Like the thing about being in a theater show is after you've been open for like a month, it's kind of like right, we know what it is, we just do it again and again. And the challenge is stamina. It's not really being artistic or
Yeah,
it's really, like wanky, but you know what I mean? It's like whenever you're doing screen stuff, the very fact that you're doing it at all means you're working. It's
yeah.
always new. So it's like it's challenging and I like it.
What kind of thing do you want to do? Like, do you want to do drama? You want to do comedy, or a mix of everything? Like, what is your goal as an actress?
I guess just to work would be great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Keep working is always the first
Well,
dream.
let me ask you a better question. Like I think everyone who acts and people who write as well, they have this one project that they would love to do, whether it's an existing thing and they're like, I would love to be in that, or you have a particular thing in mind, I'd love to tell this story or whatever. If
Mm.
you could be in it, if Netflix approached you and say, listen, blank check here. What project are you going to make? It's all you.
It's kind of not a very serious actor thing to say, but not that I am a really serious actor. I don't know why I said that. But I want to be a superhero or an action hero. Like 1000%. My favorite show growing up was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So
Buffy the Vampire Slayer was one of those shows I was about to say as a man, but whenever that came out, I was absolutely not a man, and even now, still on the borderline. But um, but whenever Buffy the Vampire Slayer came out, it was one of those shows that you never let on that you liked. As a guy, you'd be like, no, it's for girls. But secretly, you would sprint home to find out what was happening between her and that complete dreamboat, Freddie Prinze Jr. Because his eyes distracted me a lot.
Freddie Prinze Jr. is isn't that her real life husband?
Yeah.
David Boreanaz.
Oh yeah. Remember, and then he had
being like a real like actual fan now. I'm like cringing, but it's amazing.
He had a spin-off, didn't he, from that?
Yeah, Angel.
Oh,
So I'd like to be like, we did the Marvel marathon in lockdown also. Like, I'd like to be some kind of superhero, action hero. I like fighting and like training, physical stuff.
You got to go away from the Marvel stuff. I think people know it now. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. If they were like, do you want to work on any production, even in the catering department, I'd be like, yes, 100%. But I think I think what would be so cool would be like, films like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, or
excellent.
Kick-Ass, or something that's just a little bit different. Like, I think
like Deadpool, like kind of like more fun version.
Deadpool, I think it's got to be something slightly quirky. It's got to be something slightly different. And I think like in Northern Ireland superhero,
be great.
Well,
what would their superpower be though?
Well, what the main thing they would have to fight against is just like people's attitude of like, if you're an American superhero and you save a bus of children from a bridge, everyone's like clapping, praising you, hero worshiping you almost. But in Belfast, if you save a bus of children, people would give off about the traffic disruption off the back of that, to the point where like people be phoning Nolan being like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? People wouldn't like the attitude that you were a superhero. They'd be like, oh, you think you're class just because you just saved 400 children. So
like you saved one of those buses that apparently everyone hates. I've been away
Glider.
Yeah, I watched like videos of like when that was coming out, everyone like hated those buses, and I was like, well, I've been away too long.
It's so Northern Irish to hate a bus. It's so Northern Irish to have a grudge against the mode of transport. Be like, because we need something, you know what I mean? We need something to like properly like, but Glider has done a lot for sectarianism, because I think both sides came together and were like, fuck the Glider. Like that was kind of what was beautiful about it. Like, I think a lot of those guys were going out vandalizing in a cross community effort, so if anything, I think that's maybe a positive. I think we should enjoy it. Did you miss sectarianism whenever you traveled?
Oh, massively, yeah. What is interesting though is like, people's assumptions of what it's like still in Belfast. And I was like, kind of, a lot of the time was like, well, I don't actually currently live there, so I can't tell you that much. But it is very interesting. Like, it really varies from like Americans who literally think you still live in a war zone.
Yeah.
Like they're like, so you must be really terrified to go to school every day. And I'd be like, I don't know if you like, maybe you should see where Methody is.
Yeah, terrified I got it wrong. Fashion wise, that was the only thing in Methody you would have been
worried. Space or something in the morning. I don't know. But...
Raging, you couldn't get your Fiat into a space. Yeah. Everyone that goes to Methody drives a white Fiat. Weird observation, but also very true.
I know it is. Actually, I don't think we were as blessed in our day. In my day, there weren't as many small Fiats, but yeah, now it's so many.
Yeah.
So yeah, didn't miss it like hugely, but also very lucky to not really have experienced it myself in the first place. So you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I like nostalgia, and I think after all this is over, I think with Brexit, I think it's coming back, and I think there will be something nice about the fact that it's been away for so long. It'll be like the West End. It'll be like Broadway. It's been away for a long time. People enjoy going to it. Let's bring it back. Well,
reliable, something you can count on. There's not much that's consistent these days.
no, but people, yeah, that would be the thing of a Northern Irish superhero. You, you, you would have to please. You would never please both sides.
Never.
Never. If you get some knife wielding, bank robber or whatever, and you take him to justice, and people find out he's Catholic, then one side of the community is going to be like, oh, I see what's going on here, and you're like, no, I was just trying to stop this guy from robbing banks. But yeah, it's definitely enjoyable. I mean, I think if Netflix gave me an unlimited amount of money to make something, I always pitch travel stuff, mainly because I just want to travel and get paid for it. Like, that's the goal. So I'm like, how about me doing stand up in another place?
In
And they're
Thailand.
like, yeah, they're like, what's the hook for the show? I'm like, there isn't. It's just me on holiday, but doing some gigs. Yeah, I'd say it would be weird going away from Belfast and then coming back. I mean, I always had that thing of when I first started doing stand up and maybe doing a little bit of TV here and there. People would always say, when are you moving? People would be like, when are you moving to London or Manchester, or just moving away? But I love it. I
Yeah,
love it. Like,
so great. Honestly, I now would live here if. And the weird thing is, there's so much TV here, but you don't really get the jobs here. You get the jobs in London, and then you come back to do it.
yeah, like Game of Thrones. Like, I still have it. Like, I could definitely see myself playing, like, because they were looking for like big bearded sort of strongmen on Game of Thrones, and I was like, you found them, but I think they would maybe get too much press attention if I was involved in a shoot that was happening here.
To be fair, like it would become quite a thing.
Yeah, I think definitely. Like, I mean, you talk about understudies. Joffrey in Game of Thrones could definitely have played that role, even though weirdly I'm probably twice his age. I could still play a little child prince, like like a really horrible child prince. I could definitely play that role. But yeah, I mean, they're making loads of Game of Thrones prequels, so
Yes, they are.
I mean, I think if you hang about, what my policy is, just hang about the outside the Titanic studios long enough, you'll get in.
Just hope for the best.
Yeah, just get in, hope for the best. Could
Not much
you?
else on, to be honest.
No. Do you want to, like? Yeah. Do you see yourself like settling here, or are you with acting? Or are you kind of like, let me just see where it takes me?
Well, I interestingly was planning on moving to America, but right now I'm like, who really right now wants to be on America? It's sort of on fire. Um,
It's a tough one because like it's like, I love spending time in America. It's just LA, New York, and even a couple of places like San Diego, San Francisco. We were last year. It's so brilliant, and like the people get such a bad rep. It's kind of, it is the same here in a way of like, people ask you about the troubles and stuff, and people think everyone here is very violent or sectarian or something, and you're like, no, we have the best people in America. People are brilliant. Like, the American people, by and large, are so welcoming, far too enthusiastic. But I mean, they could do with knock that down a bit. But like, yeah, I mean, so many people have left LA as well. So many people, I think, who relocated to America are now just coming back because they just can't hack the politics and everything else that's going. So if you went to America, where would you go? Where would you move to?
I wanted to be in New York. I've got a manager there, and I sort of wanted to do Broadway and TV. There's just a lot of work there, and once you've done something there, it's exciting. And my other half is American also, and is currently there. So pandemic has been a great crack.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Borders closed and all that. That's
where is it? Is he based in New York?
he's with family at the minute outside New York, like between New York and Philadelphia. So luckily, kind of like away from everything.
Oh
But
well. Has he been over here? Has he visited
yeah,
here?
he's been here quite a few times, and it's
What
so
is it?
great. It's so great when he's here. He's very enthusiastic about things,
Oh,
and he just is like this. He loves saying. He's probably gonna listen to this and laugh, but he loves saying Northern Irish things in American accent. It's so good.
that's
Like
all I want to hear. That's all I want to hear.
to fit in with my family. He's always like, "That's class," and they think it's so great.
Can you please get him saying "up the hoods"? I don't even know if you know that phrase because maybe you haven't been here, but "up the hoods" is me. Are you familiar with this phrase?
I can't say I am. What? Tell me more.
Up the hoods basically means like it's a good time. No one knows. I don't know what it means now. I've said it, but Up the hoods is kind of like, in what way would you use it? If you were supposed to work until 3 o'clock and your boss is like, you can leave at 2:30, you would say up the hoods. I think it means, hoods by definition are considered people who walk around in hoodies. Maybe there's a little bit of antisocial behavior disorder there, whatever. But when you say up the hood, you mean like, it just means like, yes, basically.
Right. Yeah,
Up
I
the hoods.
absolutely get him to say that. It's my my family, like half of them are from Derry as well. My mum's side of the family are like super Derry, and it's amazing because she has like 6 siblings, and they all talk at him at the same time. And
Well,
he just,
even I wouldn't understand that. You know what I mean? Like, there is, when people are very dairy, they like, I love the dairy accent, but I do not understand it.
it's so good. My favorite is when they, if my uncle ever hears this. So like my family always talk about, like buildings. They say Balden.
Bolton, eh? Bolton.
And I'm
Well,
like,
I apparently say Belfast. Belfast.
boss, why? Where's that from?
Don't know. There's some words. There's some words I would
I
say.
like that was really like disdainful of me. I have like the worst accent in the world.
Well,
Like I was gonna
do
say.
you did you notice when you first went? Was it when you first went to London? Did you notice like your accent was changing? Or was it when you went to America? Was there a point where you were like, "Oh no, I have said this in a different way now"?
Yes, I say now all the time.
Oh no.
I say I know it's so bad, but it's because when I moved to Guildford, I used to work on Saturday mornings teaching really, really small children who all had names like Pansy, Flora, Light, yeah, Flora Light. Don't know.
Pansy and Floralite sounds like a 70s cop show.
That's right. But like all these like Surrey kids, and I'd be like, "No, everyone, what we're gonna," and they'll go, "No, no, no," and I'd be like, "Okay." So
You
I
should have
am.
hit every single one of them, by the way,
I just couldn't
and
do
set up the hoods.
it. So I just changed, and then every time I come home, my family would be like, "What are you at? You sound very English." And then I gradually started to sound also then more American because I was playing in American for many years. Boyfriend's American. I'd always be doing interviews everywhere, and it's not an excuse, I know, because a lot of my friends who are much more famous and successful than me sound a lot more Northern Irish than I do. Um,
I think
I,
you got to double down. You
I
got to
sort
double
of
down.
toyed with the idea. I was like, should I just come on and like pretend I'm a lot more Northern Irish? But I thought my family will put me up on that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm like, I'm always like, I don't understand how you would lose your accent. I mean, I can't understand it. And then I think I was in America for 5 days, just before lockdown, and there was some word I said in like a restaurant in America, and I was like, I need to get home immediately. I
Yeah,
need to get
I'm
home.
aware that it's terrible, and I'm just sort of like fine. And I very often like sort of have like an existential crisis mid sentence because I teach. I'm like a Pilates teacher as well. That's my other job because all actors have other jobs, and I teach Pilates. And I always am like, so how you want to feel when you do this now? Is it? And I'm like, and I sort of have to stop talking, be like, hi, how are you? All the time.
No one understands my name when I'm in America. No one understands my name because anybody else that speaks right would say Shane.
Yeah,
Shane. I say Shane, which just sounds like a noise. Shane.
I'm trying to think what they would think your name
No,
was.
they don't. They don't think it's anything like what I'm saying. They don't think it's Sean. They don't think it's Shine. They think it's some. They don't think it's English. Like they think it's something totally. When I'm
Yeah,
like Shane Todd, people are like, "What? Did a car drive past at speed? What? Shane?" It's no one understands it. No one understands my name, but I refuse to say Shane Todd. I'm like Shane Todd. Deal with it. And then
yeah,
when I get brought on at comedy clubs, I get everything but Shane Todd.
yeah.
I hate it.
Mine is not too bad. Like it's quite like you don't. Christina is like fairly recognizable. But yeah, I'm toying with just changing my accent back. It's
Just I
it's
think I think every once in a while, just give it an ah. Just every once in a while, instead of a yes.
I don't even remember though. Like even when I talk to my mom, I sort of gradually get more. But that's a mom voice,
Yeah, yeah,
not an
yeah.
accent. It's just her voice.
You need to put a fleece on to talk properly like that.
Just sort of start. I think I don't know if it's a thing here specific. My mom talks really low.
That is.
Like, why?
I don't know. I think it's just back. I think it was like back when, our parents were younger. I think it's like it was probably a thing of there was so much bad stuff going on here that like you had to whisper because something terrible was probably going to happen. So people did get used to whispering.
Yeah, it must be it.
But yeah, I think like just really as long as like if you're in Broadway or whatever, and a director's like, do you think you're right for this role? Just you'll lose the role, but you will retain what makes you you. Yeah, retain respect. Yeah, this been very enjoyable. I really enjoyed chatting to you because when people say, West End actors, Broadway actors, I'm always fascinated as to like what that would be like, and the realities of that, because it sounds like, oh, that'll be not a gift, but you're like, that must be like brilliant, that must be loads of fun, but like the hours is another thing. But,
Hours.
well, it's hours.
But that's when I say hours. It's awful.
Yeah. I just think with ours, you're getting to the point quicker.
Yeah, true.
Ours is more vowels, and we just don't have time for that here. Um, but yeah, I'd say it's totally different, and it's something I'm so respectful of is seeing real craft, like whenever I saw Jersey Boys, and this is just a shout out to, if any of your friends who work in Broadway are watching this and they're casting agents, if they're whatever, I want to play Frankie Valli in Jersey Boys, but I want to be able to, in between songs or at the interval, go to the Hamilton set and play the King on Hamilton. That's all I want to do. And then any role in the Ferryman.
All at once.
I'm not arsed any role.
I'm sure there'll be loads of producers listening to this as well. So
Yeah, I'd say they will. And listen, if you want to make Pansy and Floralite also, we could get writing that because I don't have anything to do. You don't have anything to do. So we could get writing Pansy and Floralite. And a listener probably will do some sort of Photoshop made up poster of Pansy and Floralite, which I would enjoy. I would really enjoy. All right. Well, look, Christine, thanks so much for doing the podcast. I think I speak for all the listeners who say give tea another chance. Okay, I know it's cool to spend time in New York and London. Our coffee's so cool, but at the same time, there's something home about a cup of tea. There's nothing wrong with a cup of tea.
I'll let you know how I get on. I'll try it again.
Get a flask. Start walking about Broadway with a cup of tea in a flask, because that you will never lose your act. If you No one drinking tea is ever going to lose their act. Tea is what keeps your accent what it is.
I
So
believe you. Well, maybe, yeah.
just
Okay, I'll
remember
try
that.
it. I promise.
All right, up the hoods.
Up the hoods.